of one of our staff members who's knocked on doors for you, who's going to knock on some of his last doors as a staff member for you in
Wow.
Virginia.
Well, that's amazing. Really, really appreciate that. How's everyone doing? It's wonderful to see you all again.
Good to see you too. I always, whenever we travel to Virginia to knock on doors for whatever, if it's the regular, general election, if it's a special election where we're, doing stuff in a primary, you're always there, and I always get very happy. Like that's how I know I'm in Virginia, is if I not just the doors and the orange, but if I see you, then I'm like, okay, we're here, we're here. And you, that's because you make a priority of appearing everywhere to support your peers, whether you're on the microphone or not. I noticed that about you, where it's not just I'm going to be here because it's a speaking engagement. You go there and you just kind of hang out next to them and talk to them for support. Is your role in the state ledge, like, have you graduated up to kind of like den mother or guide or mentor now, just quietly on the side?
I don't think we have an official den mother, and we probably have a few who would probably qualify for that, but I just know how critically important every election is. We can't lose any seats, and we actually need to keep expanding our representation. So the real point is that you are here in Virginia, that you are coming to all of these campaigns and supporting these races. I can't tell you how incredibly gratified we all are of the work that Common Power does. And the fact that you're coming from across the country and working so hard on the campaigns here in Virginia just means the world. And you've made a difference. So if you're seeing me, it's because I'm seeing you everywhere.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's like a second home. Every chance we get, we're there. And here, the folks that are here on the Zoom are people who have knocked on doors in Virginia for years. Folks who are going to travel, for some of them for the first time, to Virginia to knock on doors. We've got our team leads here. We've got some supporters here on the call too, and some folks who knocked on doors for you way back in 2019
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
for the very very first time. One of the things that I think I was aware of in 2019, and newly aware of it now as we look into this kind of all these new candidates that are popping up all over the country, because there's this big need for kind of fresh thinking and new blood. Is that your background is in education,
Yes.
that you were an educator and then an administrator for 30 years, and that is such a we've never talked about this, but that's such a deep piece of common power. When we're not knocking on doors, we're learning about people who knocked on doors before us. We're learning about the civil rights movement, the voting rights movement. We're teaching people about this long struggle for rights in America, and that gets people going. It activates them. It reminds them why they do this work. It puts it in the context of history, and it lets them know that we've won before and we can win again. Um, as an educator, how have you, as a previous educator, how have you kind of kept on with some of those qualities and used those as an elected official now?
That is a great question. And for me, I started out with the dream of teaching at a liberal arts college. I thought that's where my home was going to be, and had my sights set on that. But I ended up teaching at a community college here in Richmond,
No, I
and
love that.
that was that's really where I learned how to teach. The best and most gratifying teaching experiences I had were in the community college classroom, had incredible colleagues, and I was there for 20 years, close to 20 years. And really, for me, what that gave me an insight to was it was a window into the actual community that I would go on to represent. So many of the students in my classroom were recent immigrants to this country. They were refugees, some of them, many of them veterans, some of them coming out of our incarceration system, many of them working parents, single parents. And so
Yeah.
all of the issues, everything everything that impacts our communities was right there in my classroom every single day. And that window has been completely invaluable to me as I do the legislative work now. I've had students who went homeless in the middle of a semester, students who were expelled from their families because they came out as LGBTQ. So everything I do legislatively, I always have a reference point back to my experiences in the community college system. One thing that I have done very intentionally now as a legislator is to see the opportunities to continue to educate as I'm doing my work. And in my office, we have set up an effort to communicate very broadly on a weekly basis on the issues that we are facing. So my newsletter always does a dive into an issue or a concern and tries to explain what's happening. We also have a very
Mm.
structured program to teach people how to advocate for themselves, how to represent, how to learn that this legislative body is theirs and they have every right to be in the building, to be in the committee rooms, championing for legislation,
Cool.
teach them how to do that effectively. And so I take that education mission very seriously, and we continue to do the work through the efforts that we're making. And when I say we, I'm talking about myself and my staff. My staff are very invested in doing this as well, and they're going out on their own now and making presentations to their alma maters, to the Young Dems, to other groups that they're affiliated with. And it has a ripple effect in being able to really show the power of an individual's voice and advocacy on issues that are so important.
So you're not only using your educational background to teach your constituents how to interact with government, you're also creating more teachers of your staff, and you're having that ripple effect. I have it on good authority that that skill set has been uh, consequential in a big way in some of the wins that have happened in the Virginia state ledge. Um, all of the voting rights, reproductive rights, and some of those gained through you convincing other people who were maybe on the fence to come your way. Um, Tell me about your evolution as a legislator, as somebody who's governing, because you came in with these ideas and you're an educator. First woman represent your district, first Muslim in the Senate in Virginia, and then you had to get to work. How have you gotten better at that? Because I hear you're so dang good at it.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. There was a steep learning curve. You know, I come from an education background where we have time to deliberate, we have time to do research and to expound on issues and contemplate things. And that's always been the model I was used to. And coming into legislative work has been kind of a rude awakening in that you have to think in sound bites. And unfortunately, you have to be able to deliver your message succinctly. And you also have to know facts that can support the argument you're making. So being able to craft an argument, but to do it in a more concise manner, and knowing
Okay.
that other people don't have the chance and the time to do the research, you have to be able to deliver the convincing information in an abbreviated form, but also demonstrate that you have additional facts and supportive materials that you could pull should they have more questions. But part of convincing and persuading folks is demonstrating that you do have depths of knowledge and you're providing the key information to win their support, but also being able to then go more deeply should there be a need to do that. But it has been a big change for me. It's a different world entirely, and a lot of you know, the opportunity for nuance and subtlety isn't here. You just have to be much more blunt and direct in the communication. And I've one thing I love about the work I do is that I learn something new every single day. There is just a constant opportunity to learn about so many issues and be fully engaged. And it's
Love that.
challenging work, but it's great.
I love that. So speaking of that, this is so you get your legs under you, uh, uh, and then so COVID is, I mean, of course, COVID hits, but now we're in this completely different political world. I mean, you were activated by Trump in 2016, and now he's back again, and it's faster, it's more reckless, it's tougher to gauge what's coming, and because it's not just him, it's people in the party, it's people kind of all the way down to the local level who have followed his lead, changed the way that they govern and make decisions. You're
Mhm.
now having to fully adapt to this new reality. How have you had to adapt from that era? Like, how are things different? It's just this year. It's in the past 5 months. How are things different in Virginia in Trump's America?
Yeah, it's very, very different. It feels vicious. It's disturbing. And every day there's some new outrage to be responding to. And every part of our society has come under attack. I think the biggest concerns for us here in Virginia are around the issues of the loss of jobs for our federal
Yes.
workforce, you know, Northern Virginia, and even in my district in Central Virginia. I have almost 10,000 federal workers, and so many divisions and agencies have just lost not 5, 10 people. We're talking 200 people, 400 people. That is a decimation of the federal workforce. So that is a huge concern. And then similarly, the ripple effects when you're dismantling agencies like the U.S. Department of Education, families who have children with special needs, families who receive nutritional supplement, and now we're facing the summer months. Um, those are a top of mind concern. So just the uncertainty, the anxiety is severe. And Virginia is home to so many different immigrant communities. A
Yes.
large number of refugee resettlement programs are here. People are very, very anxious. Just today, I got a call from a family whose family members were coming from England. They are British citizens, a mom traveling with children, and they were stopped at Boston International, and they were denied entry, and they were going to be put on a plane and returned back to the UK because they're Muslim, even though they are
Of
British
course.
citizens, but because their name and their religious identity, this kind of reckless, arbitrary response that we're seeing, and the lawlessness of young immigrant communities being targeted in particular, it's very frightening times for so many families, and especially the children in schools, as they come to school not knowing if when they go home, their mom or dad will be there. So it's quite a challenge.
That's so tough. And you're reminding us that you and your constituents are at ground zero in terms of the impact of Elon's Doge cuts and Trump's policies. Um, this craziness that's going on today, it's probably still going on. I haven't checked my phone. Um, it's interesting because it highlights just how broken our system is, how broken our leaders are that we collectively have chosen for us. Um, and then it asks us to like imagine an alternative. And I love that we were coming on talking to you. I wrote an email saying, the opposite of that kind of crazy that we see going on live in front of us is Ghazala Hashmi. It's like, trustworthiness and, calm and collective, thinking of the facts, showing empathy. You're the opposite of what we're seeing right now. That said, this is a moment where people are kind of like, I need people who are going to fight for me. I need people who are going to, whatever they were doing before, whatever our elected officials were doing in 2024, I need them to push harder for me. And we are also like, we're looking for people who are fighters. And I think you're a fighter. I think you're a fighter, and I think you look different than other fighters. But I think that you behave differently. You're not the typical what people would think of, somebody who is loud or whatever. But I think you're a fighter. What do you say when people are like, we need people to do more. We need our elected officials to do more. What do you say to that?
I fully agree. I'm sick and tired of my colleagues who are sitting back and not out there. I've been to just about every rally that we've had in the Richmond area and
Yeah,
encouraging more people to be activated. This is a historic moment. We have to, I used to teach Henry David Thoreau's essay on civil disobedience, and I would always ask my students, what will it take? What would the government need to do for you to actually engage in acts of civil disobedience? Well, the answers are really clear now. This is a time where we need civil disobedience, active civil disobedience to respond to all of the crises that we are seeing. We need a government that hears us, that we are not going to accept what's happening. We're not going to abdicate our responsibility to protect the vulnerable within our society. And I heard, somebody said recently at a meeting that I was at, and I love this point that he made. He said, fear is contagious, but courage is contagious as well. And when we act courageously, we inspire others around us to also take on the challenge and to be courageous. And the more of us that stand up, that refuse to accept this as a normal point for us, this is the moment for us each to be visible in the efforts that we are making. And being fearless is hard, but it's necessary. And we just need to be fearless.
I love that. We got to quote the marketing team's on this call. I think quote that. That's a T-shirt. We got to make that one. Um, so and I'm gonna Miss Faye. I'm gonna tee you up for a question. Miss Faye is a team lead for Virginia team and also an educator. And she has been with Common Power for years, knocked doors with us for years, and probably has 10 questions she could ask you. But I'm going to tee her up for one here in a second. I just want to say that so the interesting thing I love about you is you'll go and you'll participate in a rally or you'll go to support somebody and you're kind of be on the side and accessible and talking to people. But I've seen you on the microphone. Okay, I've seen you get up and do and say a speech on the mic, and it is like you transform into. I want to say that. Let me, and I'll put this in the form of a question. Um, I have the feeling that you're pulling from your history in Georgia because you grew up in Georgia. When you get up and you get on the mic, are you doing some of that? Are you pulling some from the kind of preacher culture and the orators of Georgia? John Lewis and Martin Luther King. I mean, the gravitas, the tenor, the pacing. It feels like you take me to church sometimes when you speak, and I swear there's some in Georgia when you talk.
You're the only one that's pointed ever that anyone that's ever pointed to the preacher tone. And you're actually quite accurate. I was an odd child, but I also loved to watch good public speakers and orators. And in
Um,
Georgia, when I was growing up, you had three channels and there was not much to watch on a Sunday morning except those mega churches and those TV evangelists. And I was the odd child. As a Muslim, I would sit in my parents' living room and I would listen to those televangelists. And it wasn't so much for what they were saying, but how they were saying it, the words that they were using, and how they were engaging with passion and reaching an audience. So I did watch them and I must have absorbed some of what they were doing. And I just love to listen and learn from great speakers. And so, yes, absolutely, Martin Luther King, what a tremendous orator he was. And Barack Obama, I think, as you listen and watch Barack and Michelle, actually, the
oh
way they
yeah.
use cadence and their use of language, the pauses, especially
Hmm.
Michelle Obama uses. It's all very instructive, and I think
Hmm.
it's good for those of us who do public speaking. You have to be conscious of the way in which you're using language and communicating and drawing emotion from people. But Charles, you're the only one who's ever figured out that as a kid in Georgia,
Oh man,
I
it was
watched
so
those
clear.
televangelists.
When I first watched it, I was like, oh, wow, because I was popping off. Homework for everybody right now in the Zoom. You have to pull up Ghazala Hashmi's speech, okay? And pull up something that's about like reproductive rights or something like that, where you can see her, she digs down deep, where just watch it. She's so good. You're so good, Miss Faye. Can I call you up?
You sure can.
Did you come up with a
Okay.
question?
Yeah. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, ma'am.
I again was so fortunate to meet you in 23 when we were there, Senator, and we are so excited to knock on doors for you again. You give us, and I'm being biased because you're that strong woman that again we need to take over the country anyways. But but
Amen.
wanted to see what keeps you going, what gives you the positivity you have and the energy you have, in spite of all the calls you're probably getting, the concerns your constituents have. What do you do to keep yourself so grounded and positive?
Mm.
Um, think a couple of things. I think as an immigrant, immigrants have a recognition of all that this country has to offer and have the opportunity to do some comparison and contrast with other cultures and issues, political circumstances that we're familiar with. So that broad global context is really helpful. And I think immigrants are here, especially recent immigrants in this country are here for a reason. And that is the recognition of the idea that is America, the idea that we try to share and send as a hopeful message to the rest of the world. And we know that the idea of America is different than the country itself, but it's something that resonates so powerfully across the world. Everybody understands America as a concept of what we want society to be. And it's a very powerful kind of a message. So I keep that first and foremost in my mind. I think what really makes me positive, though, I have the good fortune of working with lots of young people. So when I was in college in the classroom, and now it's 20 somethings that run our government. They're the smart attorneys who are crafting legislation. They are working in our offices as staff on the campaign trail. As you know, so many of these campaign workers, hardworking folks, are in their 20s and early 30s. It's the young that really do inspire me. This generation in particular gives me so much hope. They really care about the world they live in, care about each other, and are so much more compassionate than I remember my generation being. I grew up in the 70s, and just to be someone who was different some way or another meant you were going to be ostracized, you were going to be bullied. I see this generation in particular being far more accepting and embrace difference and fighting hard for their future. And I want to leave in any way that I can a little bit of a better world to the young folks that I have the honor of working with.
Thank you, Senator.
That's so good. That's so good. I actually totally agree. Somebody asked me that yesterday, and I was like, it's the young people. They're fighting in different ways than we did. It's
Yeah.
tough to see, but they're going to the places. The front lines is it's not at the Tesla dealership. It's on TikTok. It's on social media, and they're doing good work out there. Um, okay, last question, because I know you got to run. There's a bunch of people right here on the Zoom that are going to be knocking on doors. What do you think is the message that's going to get through to people when they're knocking on the door and somebody says, why should I vote for Ghazala Hashmi? What's the thing that you want us to lead with?
I would ask you to share that I've got the skills, the experience, and the fire to meet the challenge of this time. I've got the longest legislative experience out of everyone who's running. I've got a track record on so many issues that impact families across Virginia on education, healthcare, housing, our environmental concerns. And that legislative work and experience distinguishes me from everybody else who's running. And I'm not afraid to face the challenges. I'm ready to hit the ground running in January, which is what we need to do as we face what we're seeing coming out of Washington.
I love that. That's perfect. That's perfect. And we have knocked on doors for some people who are on the ballot with you, and we chose you because exactly what you said. It's that consistency, it's the experience. And there's a big agenda after this election for Virginia, a lot of stuff that y'all want to pass. And I have faith in you that that's going to get done. But thank you.
Well, I'm
Thank you
so
for
honored
joining
to
us.
have your support. Really, really, truly honored. Thank you.
All right, y'all, get ready to go. Lace up your shoes, pack your bags. It's coming. It's coming. This trip to Virginia is right around the corner. We wish you the best. We'll see you in Virginia. I will see you in Virginia.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. And I've shared with Charles and others, my baby girl lives in Seattle. And so I'm always thrilled when I see folks from Washington here in Virginia. I feel like you bring a little bit of her every time you come here. So looking forward to seeing you.
Okay. Well, the next time you're in Seattle, you gotta look us up. You gotta come. We got this nice new office right here. It's right here on First Avenue, right here. You
Amazing.
gotta come see
Yeah,
us.
I will. Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. That was good. That was good. Y'all, I'm not kidding. A Ghazala Hasmi speech, it's like a different person, you know. She's You see her do a speech and she really pulls from the culture that exists in Georgia of just oration, of just, you know, being able to get on a podium. And it's not just like you're talking, you know, you're like singing, you know. She does it, and I was shocked, and I was like, where did that come from? Where did that come from? uh and it's just, she's solid, you know. And she challenges um the kind of archetype of what it takes to be a fighter, you know. And do you have to be loud? Do you have to be screaming? Do you got to be, you know, causing trouble? You know, she probably scares some people in a very quiet way in Virginia. And Miss Faye, you know, there are some people that, especially women, older women, like you don't. They say very, very little, and people know you don't mess with them.
That's right. And she's in my generation, so it is they would be foolish not to vote for her. Foolish.
Right, right, right. And it was a tough, you know, that part at the end I said about us having to make a choice.
Right.
Um, we knocked doors for Aaron Rouse. We we were the difference in that election. He won by 696 votes. And we knocked on like 2,000 doors in that one, Puya. Um, that was a field marching. There were people that we got to vote who weren't going to vote. There were people who we got to vote for him that weren't going to vote for him. And it was tough knowing that the two of them were running against each other. And ultimately, we chose her because of what she said, because she's got a record, because it's not just about getting elected, it's about being able to govern, and being able to govern in a state that it would vote blue in the presidential and then elect the Republican governor. Where there was a Democrat who we fought in the primary that was voting with Republicans, and he was one of the most popular Democrats in the state ledge. It's just a swingy kind of state, and so someone who gets elected there has to work with people who disagree with you, and they're trying to pass. They're trying to codify rights in their constitution. That's like the next big step in Virginia. And it's this very complex process. So you need somebody who's going to go in there and cut some deals with people and convince moderates and conservatives to vote for the greater good and vote for Democratic majority policies. And Ghazala can do it. She can do it. Okay. All right. Team leads. Any like last messages about the trip? I know you got a Zoom coming up. When is orientation?
June 9th.
Okay. June 9th, I think 4 p.m. Pacific time. That's on right. The calendar. It's on the events page, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Okay. And if there's anybody who like last minute was like, I want to come to Virginia, just go to that, right, Puya?
Yeah, and if you go on our website and you go on the Take Action page, you can sign up right there. We will see you on June 9th for sure.
Okay. All right. In 13 minutes is our community meeting, so we're gonna let everybody go early. It's us celebrating our birthday, 7 years this month. 7-year CP birthday. We're going to hear from the Institute and the Academy and from fieldwork on how we've changed over the years. Some of the numbers actually that are coming from that. Yeah, it's not often we get to look back and say, like, this is how far we've come, but this is the meeting where we're going to do it. So if you got some time, please join us for that. Any last thoughts? Ms. Faye, Puya?
We're ready to
thank you
go.
all. Let's do this.
Yeah, ready to go.